Playback with Nakia and
Cat.
gosh, guys, we have some yummy tea today. Like I'm excited, and I'm so excited, right, Kat? Doug,
Yes, so much. Doug has Douglas Sloan. I can't call him Douglas. It's Doug to me. He was one of the writers and producers on the show when we were on the show, and he also returned back during the Dino Thunder Disney era. He's amazing, and he has just written a book called Monsters, Morphers, and Mayhem. Am I saying that right, Nikia?
Morpher,
Morphers,
Monster,
Monsters, and
and
Mayhem.
there you go.
There we go. Thank you, Alexis. And it's an amazing tell-all book about his time on Power Rangers. It's amazing. You can't put it down. So he's here to share all his intel with us today.
My old pals.
Yes. Hello,
All those
friends.
hours we spent in my office crying.
Oh,
No,
so many.
laughing and telling stories. It was wonderful.
Oh my
Yes.
You guys were the highlight, literally, of some of my years there. I mean, between you
Aw.
guys and Anne and JDF in many ways. Yeah, absolutely. So it's great to see you. You haven't changed a bit. You don't look.
Oh,
any
you
different.
either. It's
Well,
the morphin grid.
Yeah, it's the morphing grid. It's the fountain of youth.
Guys,
Absolutely.
my character's name was Tanya Sloan.
Dude.
I wonder where my last name came from, Doug.
It was funny because Anne suggested that, I think, if I remember correctly. And I was like, I don't know, man. That's really? And she's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. And so it back then you had to get you still do. You had to get the name cleared through the legal department. So to make sure there was nobody else out there with that name. And there was nobody out there with that name. So it was Tanya Sloan. It was awesome.
Tanya Sloan. Was she Kenya Sloan first, though? She was
Yes,
Kenya.
she was Kenya, and then Kenya didn't clear. So yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Kenya didn't clear with any last name. And I can't think about I don't know whether it was like an issue with naming the country, and it was like a weird sort of thing, but it wasn't cool. So they went with Tanya, and it stuck.
Yes.
Yes. When people ask me about my journey on Power Rangers, they asked me about the name, and I said when I auditioned, I was Kenya. By the time I got on set, I was Tanya, and I was named after one of the writers. So I was like, that's
true.
It's so funny.
I used to call you Tanya. Remember, Doug? You used to correct me. It's Tanya. I'm like, man, in Australia we say Tanya.
Yeah. I mean, and you kept your accent though, right?
I was Australian. They wanted me to be Australian.
Yeah. I don't know why then we would have made you change how you said Tanya, but
too confusing for the kids.
I know. I remember when I went to New Zealand to do the New Zealand show, man. Oh my God, dealing with all those guys who none of them were American. And,
yes.
But they all watched American television, so most of them had it down, but like Pua, forget it. He was, and then the bad guy, he couldn't get it together. He called them ninjas. I'm gonna get those ninjas. Like, dude, it's ninjas.
Oh, ninja.
Well, Doug, have some. We got to get into the tea.
Let's get into it. Let's go. Let's get into the meat.
We had a couple questions. We want to ask Scott Bickley's questions first.
Yes. So, let me put on my glasses. This is my. You'll learn this about me now. I'm in my 50s. I don't see anything. That's how life is now.
60s.
Oh, are you in your 60s? What?
Dude, I'm on the dole.
You're an old man. The senior
man.
discount.
I've got
senior
Social
discount.
Security.
Woo! Something to look forward to.
Absolutely.
All right. So this is from Scott, who is one of our channel members. He has 3 questions for you. The first one is, when you wrote Dino Thunder, what made you bring JDF back?
Well, that was a very interesting story. Anne and I were standing in the, and this is before we had written anything for the show. I mean, we didn't know what the show was going to be or anything. And the only thing we knew was that Emma Lahana was going to come was going to be on the show because last year, the year before, she had auditioned for Tori on Ninja Storm and gotten down to the very end with just her and Emma and Sally. And I said to Emma, I said, "You're coming back. You're going to be in the next season for sure," because she sang and she had a great voice and all this.
Mm.
But we didn't know what the show was going to be. And Anne said, "Should we call Jason Frank?" And I was like, "He'll never ever do it. There's no way." And because I didn't know what his feelings were about Power Rangers at the time, because they tended to be very fluid and dynamic, and
Extreme.
never knew, as Jason was. He was very extreme. There was no in between with him. He either hated it or loved it. And we picked up the phone and just called him, literally standing in the office, and said, "Hey, dude, what's going on?" "Oh, hey, buddy, what's going on, buddy, what are you doing?" And I said, "Listen, man, we're thinking about bringing your character back, and the show shoots in New Zealand." He goes, "Oh, buddy, I'm in. I'm totally in. Let's do it." I mean, literally, that's what it was.
Wow.
So it had nothing to do with the ratings? Because
No, nothing.
he explained to us
Oh, he explained to you. Go ahead.
that the ratings were not good. And so he came
You had
back
to bring him back.
to bring the ratings up.
Okay. Well, if that's true, I was not aware of that,
Okay.
because Anne and I actually came up with the idea, but hadn't told Disney anything about it yet,
Okay.
because hiring an American was not something that was not part of the equation for those shows. They didn't bring Americans over. And so to get Jason over there, it was expensive.
Yeah.
And we didn't even know if we should ask. But, you know, as it turned out, yes, it was a big coup for us. And it was great for the, Ranger Nation and stuff like that. And that was his first time coming back, I think, wasn't it?
Yes. Oh no, he'd done Forever Red, hadn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he had never come back as a regular character all the
No.
way through.
No.
And we made him into a doctor, Dr. Oliver, and it just everything. Once he said yes, and once we got that deal done, everything sort of revolved around that. That's how the story for Dino Thunder came up, and that's sort of how we wrote it, based on Dr. Oliver and this hidden thing. So yeah, I mean, I don't, Jason's funny. He was his memory was not perfect. And, he definitely, he actually once said the only reason he did Dino Thunder was as a favor to me, which was also kind of funny. But, God love him. I mean, God bless him. I love that kid. I will love him forever. He was just an astounding human being.
Yeah, force of nature, that's for sure.
That is for sure.
Yeah, yes. And then his second question, part of that same kind of question, was what was your favorite episode you ever wrote and your favorite moment?
Oh my God.
That's a hard one. It's a lot of episodes.
Wow.
It had to be when you brought me in and you named me.
You stole my line, Nakia.
It was. I'll tell you what, there was two of them that stuck out. The first one I directed was with Kat, was with you.
Yes.
And you changed into a cat. And
yes.
I thought, and that was a fun one. That was really fun. The snow one was very fun.
Yes.
When we went up to Mammoth.
Yes. Oh, the drama up there.
It snowed for 4 straight days.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. That was really fun.
By the way, everybody. Tanya didn't get a chance to come.
What's that?
I know that. I said I didn't get a chance to come. I wasn't invited.
Yeah, no, it was a tough one. That was truth be told, here's a little juice for you. One of the 3 who ended up going was insistent upon going. And
I know who that was.
Who could it have been? Me?
I don't know. They had to go. So rather than sit around and argue, we just fine, whatever, dude. It's good. So, we had to bring Jason and Kat, and then Sarah, and then Shooky, of course, out of the blue said Sarah's playing Heather, which was what? Who? Okay. And that was
We got to
weird.
write in a girlfriend now.
Well,
Like,
well, no, we had the girlfriend, we had the part, and I was
oh,
casting her, and all of a sudden, Shooky says, "Ah, don't worry about it, I've got it." And I'm like, "You got it? What do you mean you got it?" He goes, "It's going to be Sarah. It's going to be Sarah. Sarah, of course." And I'm
of
like,
course.
"Sarah who? Sarah Brown." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And
Oh,
look, Sarah's a great actress, but
Yes,
she's very talented. Oh my
yeah,
gosh, amazing.
yeah.
Yes.
Sarah was Shooky Levy's. Is it Levy or Levy?
Levy.
It depends on who you ask. I always said Levy, Shooky Levy.
Okay.
And
It was
Deborah
Levy.
said Levy. So,
Oh,
she was married
Deborah would know.
Deborah would know. That was my feeling. But then again, Deborah was kind of a trip too. So who knows? Who even knows? But yeah, I called it Levy. But yeah, he was go on, Nakia. You were gonna say.
I was just letting the audience know that Sarah Brown was dating Shooky. So can we say nepotism? Kind of.
Well, yeah, you could say anything you want. I mean, he did more than date her. He impregnated her, and they
Yes,
had a
they had
child
a child
together.
together. Yeah,
And she was on VR Troopers, so
yeah.
she was a good actress. It wasn't what I
Very
had
good.
in my mind for Heather, you know, uh, but it didn't. It came out fine. The big problem with that was that Beasy hired a crappy ski photographer, and so none of the ski stuff came out good. That was a little, he was a little shit. Excuse me.
Questionable.
Yeah, but anyway, so and then the other episode that I love, there's two that I love. I love the opening of Dino Thunder. When Jason's running through the forest and he jumps off the thing, and then you are close on his suitcase, and you pull back and it's Jason. It was, to me that was like, that's a classic moment in
Wow.
the history. There's so many that I love. I mean, there was a lot of episodes I really, really loved, and so it's hard to choose. But
I think that I have to say, when you and Anne were writing, I've heard this from fans too, that Zio had great storylines, and I feel like you really invested in our characters in Zio, and it was like there was a lot of meaning in those episodes, as opposed to Mighty Morphin. I just felt like there was a lot of story development. Like, you guys really invested in that.
We had gotten our bearings by that point, and
yeah,
we decided that what we were going to do is everybody was going to get an episode. It would alternate. So it would be a key episode, a da 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 da, or whoever. And so that really lent itself to deeper character development. And my thing has always been, like, if you look at my Disney movies and stuff, it's all about character, and that's what the show should be about. And what I think later shows suffered from, unfortunately, was that the minute you dress them all in the same outfit, for example, which is what was a big battle I always had with those guys, you kind of lose individuality just visually, and then you have to struggle twice as hard to make up for it in the stories and the dialogue and stuff. And it never, to me, was, Koichi and I would fight about that all the time, all the time.
Yeah.
He wanted them all in the same outfit, and he wanted to do it the same as the Japanese footage, and so anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting that we're talking about character and so forth. When people ask us about, what was your favorite season? Was it Turbo or was it Zio? I always say I love them for different reasons, but I say that I loved Zio because I had more storylines. I felt like what you just said, you really catered to each of us as an individual, where one episode would focus on Tanya, another one would focus on Tommy, another one would, but I felt like when Turbo came along, and we don't know what was happening behind the scenes, at that time, but I felt like that kind of fell to the wayside. It wasn't as much so like it was in Zio. Like it wasn't focusing necessarily so much on us. And then
Yeah. Yeah.
being
It was tough because Turbo was the first one where you guys weren't going to be in school, number one. So we had to give you guys all kind of things to do. And, uh, I, Shooky pretty much came up with all that stuff. And, you know, the idea that you were on a radio station, but you were the head of a recreation department. I mean, none of it made really a lot of sense to me. And then, so we tried to, we made Tommy a race car driver, and I had this whole huge plan at the end to have this big finale at the California Speedway with NASCAR and all this crap, and
Oh, wow.
like, getting everything in my head, and I had started calling people and stuff like that, and we were blindsided when we got the axe. And it started with the Turbo movie. To be honest, the fact that Ann and I had been so vehemently, so adamant about fixing that script. And there's this story in the book about me and Shell. you know they sent me down to
I
Shell's
remember that.
house to rewrite the script, and she showed up at the door with a miniature greyhound strapped to her chest and a papoose, and it was it was mental. And she didn't take it off for like the first hour I was there. It was really it was bizarre.
Okay. That
Yeah,
was her
and
baby.
yeah, that was her baby. It was, she had just moved down there. Her and Shooky had just broken up, and Shooky sent me down there to rewrite the movie, and cut 30 pages out of it. And it just never really got to where it should have been. It was a weird thing. It was, and to me, the problem with Turbo was that cars are not that interesting to kids in general, because they've been playing with Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars for years. So those big dopey Zords, the Turbo Zords, were kind of like, oh, all right, whatever. I'm
What made
cool.
them choose Turbo, like the Car Ranger? What is it
That's a
just because
really really good question. I don't know, because Car Ranger, uh, it was kind of a spoof in the
yeah,
Japanese. It
yeah,
wasn't. It was kind of a goofy spoof thing, and I don't know. Maybe it was the next one in line. Chaim bought what he bought, and he used what he bought. So whatever
right.
he had in the vault, that's what was going to be used. And I'm sure they thought at some point, Turbo, it's cars, it's going to be great, it's going to be huge. But then you think about it, and it's like every kid in America gets in a car every day. So who cares?
What's different about
Yeah,
that?
what's different about that? Let's do
So,
ninjas. Or
and I have one question along the lines of what you're saying. So, is it true that
Mhm.
Jason asked to leave and that's why they decided to recast in the middle of the season?
It's funny. I Jason was very up and down. I mean, he one minute he wanted to leave, the next minute he wanted to stay. They would
Hmm.
offer him a ton of money, and then he would stay, and but none of it, from looking back on it, none of it was based in any sort of like, this is what's good for my career, or this is what I really want to be doing as an actor, or any of that stuff. It was
Mm,
all based on his emotional ups and downs. And
yes.
some days he felt really appreciated. And I think Jason's big thing, and I know it's his big thing, was he wanted to be respected and appreciated, and he wanted to be paid and what he was worth. And he was worth the, a lot, and so I don't know if that was the case. But what I do know is that when they decided that they were going to get rid of Ann and I think that was the thing that sealed Jason's fate and the fate of the
Mm,
rest of you guys. Because I think if Jason knew that Ann and I were going, he would have like blown up the building or something. He would have not been cool with it. And I think
yeah.
that was a step that was part of the reason they changed everything over, was that
Yeah.
they didn't want to deal with Jason, if Ann and I went. And I'm not saying that like to be because we were so cool or anything, but I think Jason, he needed to have us there just
To
as a
feel
safe
safe.
place. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. As a safe place to go because
Yeah.
it was not a safe place emotionally. I don't think. I
Mm.
think there was a lot of backbiting and a lot of BS you know, Jason was just as guilty about that. There's that whole thing about David and being gay and all this stuff. And it's like, dude, it wasn't a secret. Everybody knew. Nobody cared.
I
And
didn't know. I
yeah,
didn't
oh,
know.
well,
I didn't know,
we
honestly.
most everybody knew. Nobody cared. Scott Page got blamed for some ridiculous thing. May he rest in peace. And you guys know Scott. He was a sweet, sweet guy. I mean, he would
Mm.
never, you know, he was just a truth-telling, nice guy. So that always kind of bummed me about that. But everybody was teasing everybody about everything on that set. Jason was merciless with Amy Jo sometimes, and then other times they were best friends. And
Yeah.
Jason teased everybody.
Oh,
And
I know.
yeah, yeah, And I said, and I think I say this in the book that came up to my office. What do you think about this new this Tanya? I said, dude, I would not mess with her. She is hardcore. Don't even start. And he's really, and I'm like, yeah, seriously. And I didn't know. I mean, what did I know? I was figuring that was a good way to keep him, you know, to himself and not, because he
I
tested everybody. He tested
he did.
everybody. He was
Yes, he
a
was a
rascal.
rascal.
And in the
I,
beginning, his kookiness, or not his kookiness, but his pathology or his, you know, ups and downs and stuff manifested itself as pranks and jokes and teasing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And as time progressed and he got older, it got a little more gnarly and hardcore. And,
Mm.
his acting out, it became a different thing. But nobody knew that he was suffering so badly. I mean, he was
No.
really suffering, that poor kid. He came,
Yeah.
he cried in my office so many times, and I had to hug him, and
Mm.
not had to, but I hugged him and told him it was going to be okay because I was the first one really that he ever worked with on the show when I coached him as an actor. Um,
Yeah.
can you
so
take us back? Can you take us back to that, Doug? Can you take us back to when you first got a part of? Because I didn't even know how you became a. I thought you
mm,
came as a writer. Can you tell the audience how you got started with Power Rangers and how it segued into? Tell us how you got started with Power Rangers.
okay, I'll tell you the whole story. This story was uh, Deborah, my non-girlfriend, she refused to admit that we were dating because she didn't, it was too weird for her. But I had left a script at her house on her coffee table, and Shooky came to pick up Tamara, their daughter, for the weekend because they were sharing custody. And while he was waiting, he happened to pick up this script that I wrote and started reading it, and he liked it. And he said to Deborah, "Who is this writer? I think he's very good. Could is he doing anything? I have a movie he could write." So the
What?
yes, so the first job I had at so then he says, and I'd never met Shooky. I was terrified of him. He looked like a fucking he looked like a madman in his pictures with the beard and the dark and the glasses. I thought he was like, oh my
Uh,
God. But Deborah said, Shooky wants to meet you. Here's his address and this is the time. And I'm like, okay. So I go to Shooky's place, his apartment in Westwood, and sweetest guy on the planet. It was like going into an opium den. It was so calm. It was just like, he was doing his music, and Shell was there floating around in a dress, and it was hilarious. And he says, we have this movie idea. It's called Susan Q. And it's about a girl who comes back and she's a ghost and da da da. And I'm like, yeah, sounds great. And he goes, we have the basic idea. We want you to write the script. So I wrote the script for that. and it came out pretty good. And then I did another one for them that Corbin Burnson was in, called Someone to Die For. Um, and then one day, Shooky calls me, and he knew I was in acting class. He knew I was an actor, and he called me up and he said, Doug, I met this guy. He is unbelievable. When I tell you, he's magical. He's like the next Bruce Lee, whatever. And I'm like, great. Has he ever acted before? And he goes, don't know. Don't have any idea. I don't think so. And he says, but you're going to teach him how to act. And I'm like, oh, okay. When does he start shooting? 2 weeks? Oh, no problem. I'm sure I can get a lifetime's worth of, acting coaching in 2 weeks. So, Jason shows up at my door the next day and he's wearing a tie and a little jacket
Oh,
and a
that's
little
so
thing and his hair
cute.
back and so polite and so sweet. And he
Oh.
said, Mr. Sloan. I said, no, it's Doug. You can call me Doug. And he says, I'm here to learn acting. Shooky sent me. And I'm like, all right, dude, come on in, man. And so basically what I did with him was I started him with that, Howard Fine method, which is the easiest, not the easiest, but it's the quickest way to get someone to be able to perform on a set without the years of emotional training and all that stuff. It's just very simple sort of instructions. It's a roadmap. And
Mm,
because Jason he worked so hard at everything, with his martial arts, he was so disciplined that he took this really seriously. And
mm,
he studied and studied and studied, and he would, and he was a natural. I mean, let's face it, he really was kind of a natural at it. And so those things all combined, helped. And my first days on set were as his coach. Bob Hughes was the director, and he was doing the Green with Evil series.
mm.
And that's where, I started on Power Rangers. And then, like, a month later, Shooky called me on the weekend, and his opening line was always, Doug, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm not doing anything, Shooky. What's up? Can you come to my house? I need some help with the script. So I went to his house, and it was a Power Ranger script called Foul Play in the Sky, where Amy goes flying with her Uncle Steve. And so he sort of sat me down in front of his computer. He says, "Go ahead and do whatever you do, and let me know when you're done." So I just rewrote the script, fixed all the English, whatever, and he liked it. And he says, "You should play Uncle Steve." And I was
That's
like,
right.
"Sure, why not? I'll play Uncle Steve." So, that was the next little step. And then he introduced me to Ellen Levy Sarnoff. Do you remember Ellen?
Yeah.
She was
Yeah.
awesome. He introduced me to
Yeah.
Ellen, who brought me in slowly, let me write one script and let me write another script. And, by the end of that first year, I was sort of like writing a lot of the scripts. And then they were going to do VR Troopers and they needed a staff writer. And so they put me on that. And, uh, and then when the second when Ellen had to move back to Burbank to do all the business stuff, Shooky. Oh my God, this was brutal. Do you want to hear the story? It's brutal.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ellen was brilliant. She's an amazing, brilliant executive, great mind. Her story sense is amazing. Her one thing was that she was really, really unorganized. So she would literally cut and paste script pages together. Like you would go into her office and there was all these lines that were, script lines that were cut out, and she had pasted them and taped them, and then she'd give them to Wendy, and Wendy would, I mean, and it drove Jonathan crazy. I mean, he couldn't stand it. He hated it. It wasn't military enough. It was too unorganized. So Shooky capitulated, of course, to Jonathan, and called a meeting with me, Ellen, Jonathan, and Shooky. And I walk in not having any clue what's going to happen. And Ellen's sitting there, and I'm sitting there, and Jonathan's got this look like he just swallowed the canary. So I knew something bad was up. And Shooky said, "Okay, here's what's going to happen, Doug. You're going to take over the writing on Power Rangers. Ellen, you're going to go back to Burbank and do what you do. Jonathan, nothing changes for you. And that was that. Like in that moment, I became the head writer on Power Rangers, and Ellen
Wow.
just sat there so dignified and so wonderfully lovely. And then we went back up to her office, and I'm like, I don't want to freaking do this. This is crazy. And she goes, no, you have to. You have to do this. This is a great move for you. And then she proceeded to tell me, what the job entailed, which to this day, it makes me emotional because who has that kind of grace and who has that kind of,
Mm.
to do that? And that's literally how it happened. It was just a weird, the
So
thing about,
ruthless.
yeah, it was brutal, but that's how it happened. The show was making so much money and there was so much at stake. And you knew that you had to answer to Chaim, who was not fun if you had to answer to him. And, and I think Shooky and him were good enough friends, but they sort of knew that the path Chaim was on was kind of to take over the world and, be the king. And so they did what they thought was best, and that was that. But they also covered their bases by poaching Anne from Fox Kids, um, and bringing her over. I think now looking back to make sure I didn't screw things up. They couched it as we're bringing in another producer. She's going to be great. You're going to love her. She's from Fox Kids. She has all the answers. She knows what to do. You're going to love her. And so then Anne showed up, 8 weeks, 7 months pregnant. Um, it was just a scene always. It was
So
always a scene.
so when you became writer on the show, Power Rangers had already been in. How did they already finish the first season, or was it halfway through the first season?
Yeah, they had finished they were getting towards the end of the first season. They had gone off to do the movie, and because there was a couple of seasons of Mighty Morphin, and they when they came back from the movie, they went into Ninja, um, and I think like that's when I started was when they came back from the movie, um,
So
and I
you were
remember,
pretty new when we joined.
yeah,
Like you,
oh yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I didn't know what the hell was going on, and thank God Anne was there because she knew what was going on. I didn't, and you know the movie was like going to be this huge thing, and Jason was going to be a big movie star, and everything was going to be just this magical thing. And then the movie kind of didn't do as well, and but that didn't matter because the TV show was what was making all the money. And so we went into the Ninja year of MMPR, and then the new footage came in, and it was like Zio, and it's all different. And that's when Ann and I really kind of took over. Was when Zio started. And there's things about Zio I didn't like. I didn't like the villains. I thought they were kind of,
No,
not that great.
yeah.
And I played one of them, so trust me, I
Stiff
know.
neck.
Stiff neck.
What's that?
Stiff. We call them stiff neck, can opener. What
They
else? Baby
were.
Slayer.
They were like, and their mouths were like,
We
it
have
was hilarious.
Scott, Doug, we have so many super chats that have come in. I have so many questions. We're not going to get to all of them.
Well, let's get on with it.
Yeah, we have a bunch of super chats. My last question before we get to the super chats, if it's okay. So Jason became this huge star.
Mm-hmm.
And if people haven't seen some of the documentaries and all of this stuff, Jason came in as the sixth ranger. Austin St. John was originally number one on the call sheet, I'm assuming, because he was the leader.
Yep.
So Jason becomes this huge star. His time as a Green Ranger is up. You guys get phone calls. Fox Kids gets all these phone calls. We need to bring him back. The kids love him. The parents love him. All of this stuff. So then can you talk just a little bit about Cybertron? Because wasn't he offered when he was done with the White Ranger, he was offered the lead on Cybertron?
Well, we shot a pilot. I played his father in that. We shot a pilot for Cybertron that Bob Hughes directed, and Jason was going to be Cybertron. And he was like, and all, he was so anxious to get out of Power Rangers and have his own show that every time I saw him, the only thing he would say, dude, I want to be Cybertron. I want to be starting Cybertron. Dude, I want to be Cybertron. Buddy, Cybertron. It was like all about Cybertron. And then as time progressed, it became obvious that they couldn't do that because they would be putting him on a show that was not going to have the success that Power Ranger had because it just couldn't. It was too dark. There weren't enough toys. It was just not going to be what Power Rangers was. And the Power Ranger franchise at that point really did depend on Jason being there. I mean, it was, and also, um, with the others leaving, they had to have, that force, that leading force. And I thought, I always was bummed that I didn't get to do more with those guys. Not anything against you guys, but those guys should have made the movie, I felt. And that would have been great. Then they could have gone and done their thing and they would have made some money and it would have been, and Walter will tell you this, he regrets that to this day, I think. But once they had Jason, it kind of made it okay to let those guys go off and do their thing, and walk away from the show. But they could, and the network was saying too, you can't. We have to have Jason in the Power Rangers. And what was funny to me was that anybody believed that anybody else was going to be the White Ranger but Jason. I mean, come on, dude. It was so hilarious. And Shooky tried to like plant people in the juice bar that could have been the White Ranger, but no one ever, everybody knew, it was going to be Jason. Um, you know,
When he
and
became number one on the call sheet,
mhm.
was it while Austin, Walter, and Twee were still there, or was it after they?
No, no. It was after they left.
Oh,
Jason was the sixth guy, and he never really took the leadership reins from Austin until Austin left. I didn't feel. I mean, I think Austin was a great superhero. I mean, I thought
mhm.
he was really good. He wasn't, a genius actor by any means, but he really embodied that.
The first question up is super chat from Brent Fam 1155. Hi Douglas. When Jason David Frank agreed to negotiate with the other 5 Ranger actors and actresses as a group to demand union benefits, did JDF tell you why he agreed to do this?
We never ever spoke about that. And hi, Brent. I know Brent. He was one of my Kickstarter guys, who
Thank you,
helped get the
Brent.
book going. Thank you, Brent. And is a great fan, like a great
Ah,
fan. And but he never brought it up to me. The only time he ever brought up money was when he went hardcore and went in and said to Chaim, "I want a lot of money, or I'm leaving."
Mm-hmm.
And so Chaim said, "Okay, we'll give you this video to do. We'll give you this, that, and the other thing. We'll pay you this." And for a couple of years there, he was making great money, but he didn't really talk to me about that because, the three of them backed out, as you remember, Amy
David.
and yeah, and David, and well, David did whatever Jason wanted to do. I mean, let's just face it. And so David followed Jason, and Amy kind of probably followed. I mean, I don't know, but they didn't want to leave. They wanted to go do the movie, which I don't blame them. I would
Mm.
have too. And I was really surprised that Twee left. I mean, that was always very bizarre to me. But Walter had other opportunities. He had a
Do you think
Disney.
she was too far in? Like once she'd kind of crossed over,
I
maybe
think
she
so,
felt she
and I
couldn't go
think
back?
I think for her it was a matter of honor, and
Mm.
because she was
Mm.
very, very, she was a straight shooter, and she didn't
Mm.
double cross. She didn't go back on her word, and it was a matter of honor for her, I think,
Mm.
to go with what she said she was going to do. And I think if she had stayed with Jason, then the other two probably would have stayed. Because Walter could have been talked out of it. It was just, but it was a really crappy situation for them. I mean, they were making $500 a week or $600 a week, whatever it was, and shooting 10 episodes in 2 weeks. So
Hmm.
the math does not really work
And
out.
doing all their own stunts at that time
Yeah,
too.
and in
Yeah.
the costumes with the helmets on. I mean,
Yeah.
how dumb is that?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, thank God for Sakamoto-san.
This next one's coming up from Nostalgia Ranger. It really blows my mind that MMPR season 1 had 60 episodes, especially now in today's streaming era.
Yeah,
Less of a question and more of a statement.
But the interesting thing was that back in the day, 60 episodes constituted a full run of kids shows. So if you made it to 60 or 65, I can't remember which, you had syndication. So they needed to get to 60 to have syndication. And it also was told to me that when they bought Power Rangers, the network really didn't want to do it. They were like, oh God, this is so awful. This is just going to be horrible. So, Ann was told, Ann Austin, she was at the network then, was told, look, all we have to do is get to 40 episodes. And if we make 40 episodes and they go on the air, we break even, we're done. We don't ever have to worry about it again. And no one knew it was going to turn into this zeitgeist crazy nonsense that it did. And except for Chaim, who told me that it was going to be an evergreen. It's going to be an evergreen, I'm telling you right now. And an evergreen is a show that lasts forever. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. This thing is barely going to get past season 3. But
here we are, 33 years later.
33 years later.
And they're rebooting it completely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this next one coming in from Shallow Hal 2001. Is it true David Yost's character, Billy Cranston, was named after Bryan Cranston?
I don't think so. I mean, Bryan Cranston wasn't... He wasn't a big actor back there. And he actually, I think he appeared on the show.
He voiced a lot of...
on the show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he was not around back then. So that would be a no.
This next one coming up is from Tambuzi 729. Finally, the Sloans have been reunited. I have read the book twice. I have questions. I love the book, and I have been waiting for this day. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you here.
Yes.
And I'm ready for questions.
This next one coming up is from Brent. Brent sent another one. Thank you, Brent, for the super chat. Did JDF ever audition for the MMPR Red Ranger role that went to ASJ? Do you think JDF would have been a better MMPR Red Ranger than a Green Ranger, or was the Green Ranger the better fit for him?
Well, I think that the Red Ranger would have been tough for him because he didn't have any experience. I mean, I think for Jason to show up on the first day of filming with a bunch of actors that didn't know each other and were all just trying to get their bearings would have been much more difficult for Jason. And I just the role of Jason, that Austin played, it wasn't really a deeply developed character or any of that stuff. It was just a very sort of superhero kind of tough guy, karate guy, and I think Austin did a great job with it. But Jason had a lot of depth, and I think the Green Ranger thing for him was perfect because he got to play evil, and he got to blend in with the cast. I write in the book about the first day of his on set, which was a scene with him, Amy Jo, Bulk, and Skull. And those three happened to be the best actors on the show at the time, and which was great. So Jason, I'm like, dude, you got the best 3 actors. Just go in there and, do what we practiced. And it was great. It really sort of kicked it off nicely. And so I think Austin was the perfect MMPR Red Ranger. And I think Jason was the perfect MMPR Green Ranger, he was fantastic. They were all great. I love that first group, but Nothing is forever.
Nothing is forever. You're right. Shalha comes back. Thank you again, Shalha. Hey, Douglas, did you get to work with Pua, Emma, and James Napier Robertson? And what were they like?
Well, of course I did, because I did Dino Thunder, and those little rascals were all in Dino Thunder. Emma and I became very, very close friends, and she actually moved. She was great. She was fantastic. She was so funny, or is so funny, and she's a brilliantly talented musician. And that was great for me because I wanted to write music to be on the show. And so, I started writing songs for her to sing. I wrote with the girls from a group called Wild Orchid, and Fergie was the lead singer of Wild Orchid. And
Wow.
the other two girls I wrote those songs with, Stephanie and Renee. And so Emma and I became great friends. She actually moved to the States and moved in with me and my girlfriend at the time. And we all, and got her career, tried to get her music career going. And then, the other two, and the other two, yes, of course, worked with them. Kevin, eh, Kevin was a, or Pua. No, this is Pua we're talking about. Pua was awesome. He was amazing. To me, he was always this big golden ball of sunshine, always full of energy, always, hugs and this and that. I mean, the funniest Pua story ever is this, and this is from the new book, so this is an exclusive. Um, Pua was missing one morning, and we used to shoot Sunday through Thursday, and it was a Sunday morning, and no one knew where Pua was. He was gone, and they called me and they said, "We don't know where Pua is," and I'm like, "Oh crap!" So said, "I'll be right there." So I drove to the office, and I'm driving by a bus bench, and I see this guy asleep on a bus bench, and I'm like, "God, that looks just like Pua." So I pull over, and of course it is Pua. He's been partying all night, and he almost made it to the studio, but he fell asleep on a bus bench. And so I'm like, Pua, Pua. And he's like, "Oh, Doug, oh man, what time is it?" And I'm like, "Get in." So we got into the set, but his face was so swollen from drinking, and he had to wear a helmet that day that we couldn't close the helmet. And it was, I mean,
Oh my gosh.
that's my funniest Pua story. But
Oh my
he was
gosh.
just funny, man. And then, Kevin and James. James was great. Loved James. Kevin and I never really kind of, met. Our minds never really met. But that's true with a lot of actors. There's actors you vibe and actors you don't vibe with. Jorge, I knew from a show called Skate, and he was another one that I called at the last minute when we didn't have Thunder Rangers, and I said, "Dude, you got to save my butt and come to New Zealand." He was, "When do I leave?" He was like, he was there for it. And funny thing about Jorge is he collected crap the entire year he was there, and never thinking about how he was going to get it home. So he had like a surfboard and a drum set and all this stuff in his room. And the last vision I have of Jorgito is him standing on the curb at the New Zealand airport with all this crap, trying to get it on the plane. I mean, it was,
Oh my gosh.
really funny, really funny. So anyway, so yeah, I did know all those guys, and I loved them dearly. They were fantastic. One of my BFFs, Nate, loves Johnny Tsunami. I'm a huge fan of Susie Q. What does that to make this movie?
One of my BFFs, Nate, loves Johnny Tsunami, but I'm a huge fan of Susie Q. What has to happen to make this movie available to the masses?
Well, that's a good question. Disney owns Susie Q.
Wow.
Yeah, they bought it. I think, or they inherited it when they took the show over. And they ran it a bunch on Disney Channel, but I don't think it's in their catalog. I don't think they run it anymore. Johnny was a huge turning point for them. Johnny Tsunami kind of, was one of the things that kind of changed that network and made it a little more famous. It was the High School Musical or whatever of its day. And so they run that a lot. They still run motocross. They still run Johnny. Um, and another movie I did called Princess Protection Program, they still run because of
My
Yes.
daughter watched that one.
Yep.
Have you
That's a
seen
cute
that,
one.
Kat?
Yes, with my daughter back in the
Oh my
day.
God, that
Yes,
movie
it's a
was
cute one.
crazy. And we
Blast
shot
from the
that in Puerto
past.
Rico.
Mm.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, and those girls were 15 at the time. And
Wow.
and the sweetest kids. I mean, they were awesome. Demi used to come and sit down next to me on the couch in the set between takes and talk about music and this and that.
Oh, look at her
And
now.
yeah, and she was
Aw.
writing her first album at the time. So,
Wow.
it
So
was,
talented.
yeah. And I said to her, I said, "Do you have any clue what's about to happen?" And she says, "What do you mean?" I go, "Do you know what it's going to be like insanely famous?"
Mm.
Didn't have a clue. Didn't have
Oh,
a clue. And it was tough. She went through a tough time,
yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
but she came out okay.
Yeah.
She's good. I mean, it was weird. I mentioned to someone that was the year. It was that year that I thought for sure I was going to get the news that Demi had passed away, and instead I got the news that Jason passed away. And it was
Mm.
like,
Oh.
it was not expected. So anyway,
Had you spoken to him before
I
that?
spoke to him probably a year or two before. He had
Mm.
moved to Houston, right? I think,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, he'd been there for a while.
he was going through a real up and down with the fans and
Mm.
Austin and him and all this stuff.
Mm.
And I think it was to the point where he really, he needed to get help medically. I think, he needed to get on medication or something. And I don't, maybe he did, maybe he didn't, I don't know. But, Jason was a very intense, very headstrong guy, coupled with, whatever the bipolar or whatever it was. So, it was a tough thing. And I just, whenever I kind of always waited for him to reach out to me because I knew that if he needed me or wanted to talk, he would call me. And, that's sort of how we had always left it.
Hmm. This next one, Shallow Hal. What was Jonathan? What's that last name?
The car,
Yes.
Zakor.
the car.
Oh,
Like
boy.
to work with.
What do
You
I
just
say?
opened a whole can of worms there,
Yeah. Well,
friend.
look, here's what I will say about Jonathan.
I'm gonna sit back for this one.
If you read the book, he's, he, I think he thought he was doing the right thing for the show. And I think that his training in the military, he was an Israeli fighter pilot. And I
Mm.
think his training in the military was one that instituted a need to control things. Because when you're flying a jet and dropping bombs, you need to be in control. And he kind of treated the show like a military thing. And Ann and I were like the farthest. We were like, we're not marching here, with you, buddy. And he really wanted to have creative control over the show, and he had and him and little Beezy, they both really wanted to be in control of the show. And it got to the cat keeps biting me. And so it got to the point where, he he took extraordinary steps to make that happen. And it's the best thing that ever happened to me personally, because if I hadn't left that show, I would have stayed there for as long as they would have had me, and I wouldn't have made Johnny Tsunami. I wouldn't have made Motocrossed. I wouldn't have, done all those movies for Disney, and then I wouldn't have probably been able to go to New Zealand. He was not among my favorite people, but I'm sure he would say the same thing about me. I was a thorn in his side. So there you have it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you can get more intel in the book.
Yes.
If you really want to know, read the book. You'll figure out who's who
Yes.
pretty easily, and you'll hear it all. And I don't want to, because we're saying his name now. I don't want to get everybody all wigged
Yeah.
out. There was a time there where people were like, oh, this one fan accused me of outing Chip as being gay in my book. And it was like, I couldn't even figure out how he had gotten to that point, besides the fact that there isn't a person on the planet who doesn't know that Chip is gay. And it's like, whatever. But people got really, really, sort of involved in who was who and what they were doing. And was I bagging on them and trying to ruin them and this and that and the other thing? And it's like, at the end of the day, I literally just told the story. That's all I
From
did.
your perspective.
From my
your
perspective. And
Yeah.
if people had a different perspective on it, then cool, write your own book. That's my book. That was what I remember. That's what I felt. And it was, to me, everything rang true, and it's exactly how I remember it.
Well, what I also appreciated, which I'll share with you guys too, is that Doug asked if he could send it to me before, while he was in the process of like raising funds and everything, and after it was written. And I really appreciated that you actually asked me and respected my opinion and made sure that it was how it was accurate to how I remembered it, so that it was authentic. And I just thought that was an indication of how much thought had gone into the story. And you love Power Rangers, you love the fandom. He's not trying to disparage or throw shade at people. It's literally an account of his time on the show and from his perspective.
It's literally exactly that. It's just, and you were, Catherine, you were the only person, and maybe Jackie Marchand, that I reached out to just to clarify. And with you, it was more of, is this how you remember it? And is this okay to say? And there was something you didn't want me to mention, and I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And for Jackie, Jackie is like a walking historical, archive of Power Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
She knows everything. And,
Yes.
So I really wanted to talk to her and get her feeling on it.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So I literally didn't research the book because I just went from my memories.
Wow.
Hey guys, I'm going to throw this out there to the fans. No more super chats because we still have 7 or 8 to get through, and we're already at 4. So we're not going to get to any more if you send them in. We're not going to have, hold Doug hostage for the rest of his life. So we're going to try to speed through these super chats and get your questions answered. But please don't send any more. We're so happy. Maybe we can do a part 2.
Oh my God, I would love that.
Have Doug back on where we could just spitfire questions, because I know I have a ton myself, and I know you guys do as well. All right, Alex, we're ready.
All right, so these are super quick speed round. Here we go. Tambuzi, you voiced Prince Gasket, which was one of my favorite characters. Was there more plans with Ocarina and Gasket, because those characters were underused?
No, because it was just based on what footage existed, and we only did what existed. So that they weren't going to try to cut together and all that stuff. It was just kind of what was there. And I was lucky that Scott Page let me do that part, because I kind of, in the beginning, really sucked at it. But he was really good at directing me.
He was a great director.
Yeah, he was amazing.
This next one, Tambuzi, everyone has a BZ at their job. What is your suggestion to how to deal with the BZs of the world? Do you rise above, or do you answer to the petty gods?
Oh my God, dude, that is a hardcore question. Every job I've been at, I've had a BZ. And sometimes they're at DreamWorks, my BZ was a woman who was literally ended up becoming the head of the studio. But for some reason, she couldn't stand my partner and I, and couldn't figure out why. And, you just have to be true to the show. You have to be true to the job. And, at DreamWorks, we were doing the How to Train Your Dragon sequel. And
wow.
We had promised Katzenberg and Dean Dubois, the director of the movie, that we were going to take care of their property and not screw it up. And regardless of what the BZ of DreamWorks wanted, which was something different, we said, screw it. promised those guys we'd do. So my thing is, you've got to be true to your job. You've got to do what's best for your job. And if someone's getting in the way of that, you can't, you got to be careful, obviously, but you also can't, sacrifice you know, your standards and all that because someone else has a different idea.
It's good advice.
Next one coming us from Brent. Again, thank you, Brent. You advise JDF to do the Power Rangers rather than Cybertron. Would you have advised JDF to do Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always rather than The Legend of the White Dragon?
Ooh, Brad, that's a good question.
Brent,
Woo!
Brent is hardcore, man.
Brent.
I would have advised, I would have told Jason to go to New Zealand to do that show. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it probably would have been healing for him because New Zealand is a very magical place, and there's a lot of healing that goes on there with the Maori tradition and all that. And I think Jason would have found it to be a really good experience. I don't know what this movie is. I don't know anything about his movie. I'm in as much in the dark as anybody. But that's what he wanted to do, so that's what he did. What bums me out about Jason and acting is that when he left the Power Rangers, he didn't really give it a go as an act like a normal everyday actor who goes on auditions and stuff. And there were 17 soap operas back then at the time, and he could have gone on one like that the next day and made a lot of money, gotten his acting chops up, and then moved on to something else. But he, for some reason, he just didn't want to do it. So
He couldn't get out of his own way.
no, he really, really couldn't. And it was so sad, and it broke my heart. Ann and I, really mothered and fathered him as much as we could. But, you get to a point where you can only do what you can do, and you can't make someone behave in a different way or change unless they really want to. And that was sort of what Jason was about. And it was tough because he would come to my office and he'd be in a down phase, and I knew that it wasn't anything to do with reality. I just knew this is what was going on with him, and all you can do is listen, and hopefully by the time he leaves your office, the switch has been turned. Sometimes it was, and sometimes it wasn't. But
this next one's from Common Rider. Was a third season of VR Troopers planned?
No, never was planned. There wasn't the footage to support it. There wasn't the footage to support the show in the beginning. I mean, we had to combine two shows to make one show. So it was never planned. And Bob was already wanting to do Beetleborgs, and he had this Irish show that he was really fired up about. So, Troopers was and what bums me out about that, honestly, is that Brad Hawkins was great.
So good. Yeah.
He was great. And he should have been in other shows. He should have been in, they should have made him a ranger or whatever. He was so good, so likable, so nice. And I don't know why he never became a star. I really don't understand that at all. But, that was what bummed me out about that. But so no, there was never a plan for a third.
This one is from Brent. Why did David Yost leave the show during Zeo? Was it due to the being called a homophobic slur once too many times?
I don't know what was in David's mind. I really don't. I was a producer on the show, and there was stuff flying around that the producers were making fun of him and calling him this and that and the other thing, and I never saw it. I didn't do it because I had, less than 10 years ago lived in Greenwich Village, New York, and my roommate died of AIDS, and I watched my roommate die of AIDS. So
last one for the night, everyone. This one's from Nostalgia Ranger. Thank you again for that. Ninja Storm and Dino Thunder are my favorite Disney era seasons. Doug, which of those actors was the most fun to work with?
Well, this is going to surprise you, but I loved the two girls who played the villains on Ninja Storm.
Katrina
Brown and Katrina Devine.
Yeah.
They were brilliant actresses. And every episode they had to, and I was just writing about this in the second book today. Every episode they had to get some wacky costume and go out and, you know, be in disguise and get the Rangers in trouble. And they always looked like themselves. So the Rangers were dopey for not knowing it was them. But those guys were so fun to work with. And then, of course, I loved working with Emma. I shot a whole music video with her that you can find online if you like. And you know, she was great, but they were all great. Jason, having Jason there was fantastic. You know, the, you know, we got Jason there. Final story. We got Jason there, and he was in, man. He was in, and then he started missing his family, and he wanted to go home and for a little break. And we're like, dude, you can't just go home for a break. It doesn't work that way. But he was not having it. He was going home. So we went home and we had to figure out a way to keep shooting the show. So we came up with this thing where Dr. Oliver gets trapped in his morph state as the Gold Ranger. And he's always in costume and he can't get out of it. And that's how we shot without Jason.
Brilliant.
For months. And
brilliant.
Yeah, thank you. And it was like so Jason that I could never get mad at him. He was just so sweet and so apologetic and so funny. And, you know, he was so loving and I just loved him and I could never get mad. And, you know, the producers, they were like, this motherfucker, I can't believe he left. And I go, dude, that's what it is. That's what you
But
got.
he was so untouchable. Like,
yeah.
he could do things that none of us could do. Like,
never
production because I was having a bad day and I was like, wow, thank you. But he could do things that none of us could do.
Nope. he was the franchise for a good portion of that time. You know, look, he was on the cover of TV Guide. Let's put that in perspective.
And one of People's most beautiful, which we love to tease him about.
Which of course he was. And you know, if you ever looked at his eyelashes, they were spectacular. I mean, he had the longest eyelashes I've ever seen on any human being.
Yeah.
He was just a really amazing force of nature, Kat. You said it perfectly. And, you know, I miss him and I miss Pua too. I mean, you know, all those guys. It was I miss Scott Page every day. It's like,
me
Lord,
too.
man, Scott fought cancer for, you know, 8 years, was it?
Yeah.
You know,
it's a warrior.
Yeah, poor guy. Anyway, but you know, Power Rangers that's a very big part of my life. You know, it will never ever change. And you know, I'm very thankful to this day for it. You know, as I'm sure you guys are.
In your final words to the fans, what do you want the fans to take from your book?
The main thing is that you will in your life be challenged and you will be asked to do things that you don't think you're able to do, that you don't think you're ready to do. You'll meet people that have animosity towards you and try to hurt your progress. But in the end, my best years as a producer and a writer came after I left Power Rangers. And if it weren't for Beezy and Little Beezy, you know, and their wicked ways, I would have stayed there and God knows what would have happened. So I just want people to look at it as a story and I want them to laugh because a lot of it's really funny. There's, you know, the Deborah stuff is hilarious, I think. There's some crazy stories there. And it was touching, you know. I talk about when I lost my guitar teacher in a plane crash. You know, there was 2 times I remember crying. Well, that was one, and the other one was when I got fired off Power Rangers. It was like a repeat of the, you know, same thing. But there's a lot, I mean, I think there's a lot of ups and downs in there, and there's emotions and stuff like that. And I hope that you guys feel all of them. I hope you laugh. I hope, you know, it's a smorgasbord of emotions.
It's a very engaging read. Like Nakia was like, "Oh my gosh, I wish you'd sent it to me sooner." She's like, "I can't put this book down," and I'm like, "I know, it's very captivating." I know part of it's probably because we're part of the story and we know all the people you're talking about, but
Right.
it's just very and the way you write is so conversational and fun, and just you feel like you're there. It's like a friend talking to you.
Oh,
So I
Kat,
really,
you
it's
guys are so
true.
sweet. And what I will say too is that if anyone doesn't feel like they want to read the audiobook, I read the audiobook.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
yeah, so
Yes.
it's me reading it, and a lot of the intention that maybe gets lost in the writing of the book you can get from the audiobook.
So
And
it's
that
available on Audible and
yeah.
okay, and
Yep, it's
Libby
Kindle,
probably,
Audible,
Kindle.
paperback, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
And other than Amazon, do you have a website that they can go to,
No,
or
it's strictly Amazon.
okay.
I don't know what's going to happen with the second book. It depends, on how because I've kind of rearranged my advertising and stuff like that, and we're going to see if sales start to, because what always happens is the first 3 months you sell a ton of books and then it slows down.
Yeah.
So we're going to see if we can pick things back up again. And once the Kickstarter for the new book starts, it'll pick things up. But it's going to be on Amazon because that's where you buy everything.
And where can people find you if they want to follow along? And
Okay, well, VRDJS, Victor Robert David James Sloan, 143 is my Twitter, or X, I guess we call it these days, and then Doug D Sloan Writes is my Facebook, and Instagram is also VRDJS143, and I post stuff on there, news about the book, and my music. I do a lot of music and stuff like that. So that's where I'm at, and most days I'm here writing.
it's awesome.
And it's you
amazing.
guys are awesome. You guys are
You're
absolutely
awesome.
amazing. It's so good to see you. Are you in so you're in Nakia, you're up in California still, and Kat, you're in
I'm
another.
in the wilderness
You're in the
now. I live in the
wilderness.
wilderness.
Yeah,
Yes.
I actually may be coming to visit you soon.
Yes, I know. I'm
Yes,
excited to hear
I
more about
know,
that
I know.
project.
I'm still working on that. I got to finish the book.
Well, if you do come, we're just going to have to meet.
Oh my God!
And I have a million people to introduce you to.
Oh, and I have a million people, and I have so many friends in where you're at. My
Yes.
Matchbox 20 buddy is there.
Yes. Oh, so many musicians are here.
Yeah. Crazy. That's great.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes.
Doug,
Thank you,
so
Doug.
Oh, you guys
We're
are
gonna
so
have to bring
sweet.
you back. You've been very, very popular. There's so many questions, and if we wouldn't have stopped it, we would have been here till tomorrow. So we're gonna have to bring you back to answer more.
I love this. I love seeing you guys. I love talking about it, and anytime, seriously, I am available.
All right.
All right,
We'll
Doug,
do
I'll
a
move you
part
to the back
two.
and don't go anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay.
Wow. Wealth of knowledge, that one.
Oh my gosh, I've got to call him and have I got 50,000 questions from the book. I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't put it down. I want to know this. I want to know that. I want to know this with that. I'm very excited. Thank you guys so much for doing
Thank
that.
you guys. But also, I just want to say, just remember that this is from Doug's perspective. If there's anything that you disagree with, just know that this is from his perspective. So I just wanted to say that so that no one has feelings about anything that may have been said. Yes. Yeah.
And we will be at Fan Expo Boston next weekend.
Yes.
Yes, we'll be there with Michael Copon and Sean Johnson, and then Fan Expo. Oh, and
Paramorphicon. We have Chicago with Jason Font and Karen Ashley. So lots of travels this month.
Yes. All right. Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.